This midterm election that we're coming up on is a contrast election. This is common sense, the Republican Party and our policies, versus crazy. This is crazy. It's crazy.
Just crazy. It's normal versus crazy. Of course, we're coming up on them 8 months from now. Am I right? Except the Democrats like to have 4 or 5 months of voting. You know, mail-out ballots and ballot harvesting and no IDs to vote because they're third world tree dwellers. I think that's the short explanation. Well, very good and happy Wednesday to you. Welcome back. Hump Day. And it's also Mailbag Day. Mailbag Day here on the Chris Plant Show. And we remain at 888-630-9625. And I also got a couple of items here I think related to the mailbag thing. And I got a white privilege card. I've got a white privilege card. It's very much like a credit card. Got the magnetic strip on the back and has the what is that, a 16-digit number, and it's got an expiration date. And the name of the card holder is Scott Free. Scott Free. I think I can interpret that correctly. The white privilege card, it trumps everything. Trumps everything. That's fun. Also got a great T-shirt. A T-shirt was sent in. I want to talk about these when we get to the mailbag, but Ski Ouagadougou, and it's water skiing. It's not snow skiing. And there we go, got the nice lady on the shoulders of the man, and they're smiling as they're water skiing along in Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso, my favorite capital anywhere in the world. I want to get to the mailbag today because it's Wednesday and we've got good stuff going on there. I have you see, that was the list that was put together of CNN hoaxes, and it fills the page in small print, very small print, fills the page. Want to share with you the CNN hoaxes because CNN very big, my alma mater, very big on hoaxes, on spreading false information, disinformation, misinformation. These guys, I am telling you. And here is this is the New York Times. Why won't Europe help Trump in Iran? Let's count the reasons. That's the New York Times. Let's count them. And it's a mental illness, really. The New York Times, they have almost universal mental illness when it comes to Trump derangement syndrome. But at the New York Times, their headline, why won't Europe help Trump in Iran? It could be because they're French and they're English and they're German and they're Europeans. And that for 80 years now, we've been providing an umbrella of security for them. And they just figure, why? It ain't broke, don't fix it. Just let the United States do it. Give it to Mikey. Mikey will eat anything. Isn't that amazing? So they got thrown out. Europe wants President Trump to end his war in Iran as fast as possible, the New York Times types on behalf of the Soviet Union, as they so often do. Mr. Trump wants Europe's help relieving the only real pressure point that could force him to do that. I got to tell you, the New York Times might as well be turban-wearing, AK-47 toting, cross-dressing. That'd have to be cross-dressing. Very effeminate AK-47 toters. But they're not on the side of civilization, and they're certainly not on the side of the United States of America. It goes beyond Trump derangement syndrome. It's fundamentally un-American and anti-American, the New York Times. And I want to get to that story as well because these people, can I just say, these filthy, stinking, rotten, cross-dressing people. Oh, yeah, speaking of which, you see we've got another Democrat, school principal. He's a Democrat, and school principal for a middle school and high school. And you'll never guess what they caught him doing because here's a clue. He's a Democrat. And the short answer is distributing child porn. The Democrat school principal for a middle school and high school. And what do you think what he does in his free time? And how many of them? I mean, we got this guy that was at the Biden White House on the South Lawn multiple times because he's a good friend of Pete Buttigieg, and he was the mayor of a college town in Maryland. And guess what his extracurricular activities were? Once again, Democrats and child porn. Got to keep Democrats away from the children, and they shouldn't be allowed to board commercial airliners, and they shouldn't be allowed to purchase firearms either, because once you're a registered Democrat, I think we know where you're going, and it's not good. It's not in a good direction. The ridiculous people. The Reuters news agency, their headline is, Trump says NATO's refusal to help on Iran is, quote, very foolish mistake, end quote. That's said a very foolish mistake. But they're Europeans. They haven't been doing a lot for centuries now. We've been doing everything for them, all the heavy lifting, smashing Nazism, the Socialist Workers' Party of Adolf Hitler, and holding the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics at bay, the USSR, for generations, and now, well, the Democrat Party. And the people at CNN, here's their headline, Trump lashes out after he fails to convince European allies to help in war with Iran. See how CNN frames that? Because they're communist purveyors of child porn. They call it journalism, but that's another thing. So Trump lashes out after he fails to convince European allies. Can you call them European allies, really, when they just sit there dressed like Norman Bates in the Bates Motel and throwing bonbons in the back of their throat to knock their uvula around? They love knocking their uvulas around. Amazing. So, yeah, Trump lashes out. He fails to convince European allies to help. We should just give them to the Islamists. They're giving themselves to the Islamists anyway. The number one name for a newborn boy in all of the United Kingdom is Mohammed, and the number two name for a newborn boy in all of the United Kingdom is Mohammed by a different spelling for Mohammed. They're giving up, and in France they have their no-go zones, and honestly, they should just learn Arabic in Western Europe and leave it at that. We can come to terms with dealing with them. Of course, they're going to be bombing people and killing them and all that stuff. Isn't that great? And just amazing, why won't Europe help Trump in Iran? Let's count the reasons. Let me count the ways. Trump derangement syndrome. Also, Joe Kent, who the counterterrorism guy that resigned from the Trump administration. A lot has percolated about him since we talked about him yesterday morning. And it's not all positive or an endorsement of Joe Kent. He's said some things in the past, as so many people have. Good thing that I never say anything that gets me in trouble, because I'm not one of them, I think, is the difference. But isn't that amazing? And they everybody goes out and they put these stupid things in social media, and years later they torpedo their own careers with their own words. How many times has this happened just in the last year? Politicians and people all over the place. But I've got an update on this Joe Kent guy, and he said some things that he probably wishes he had not said, things that he said in the past. Amazing. Also, Cuba. You see, communist Cuba, which the Democrats love because they're communists, basically cross-dressing, thieving, cheating, communist Democrats. They're the left. They're not really liberals. They're the left. It's a very different animal. But in Cuba, which, remember, Barack Obama loved, he went down there, hung out with anybody named Castro that he could hang out with, and posed with wall-sized murals, building-sized murals of Che Guevara, who was a racist and would have jailed Barack Obama and then later shot him to death, or had somebody else shot him to death, because that's what the commies do. But Barack Obama's too stupid and too ideological to know anything about anything like communism and Cuba and Che Guevara and the Castro brothers, all racists and murderers. But the left, they're always okay with racist murderers because that's basically where they are. That's their wheelhouse. Isn't that amazing? But it turns out Cuba, they've lost all electricity. The whole country has no electricity. And when you're a Democrat, you'll never guess how that goes. Do you know how that goes, Michael? It's Trump's fault. It's Trump's fault because Trump is choking their energy supplies. And you'll never guess, there's more exciting news. The Chinese communists are moving in, and they're helping with solar panels. And the news media is very excited that communist China is helping communist Cuba with solar panels because that's a real good idea. But in the meantime, The commies can't give themselves their own electricity. The commies can't give themselves light at night when it's dark. They can't give themselves warmth at night when it's cold. They're quite ridiculous. And the headline from the Washington Post, just amazing. Trump, this is the Washington Post, Trump has choked off Cuba's oil supply. China is stepping in with solar. This is perfect for the Washington Post. The victim is Cuba. The hero is China. The villain is the United States. And the issue is energy, electricity, oil supply. And they get to blame the United States and blame Donald Trump. The hero is Communist China, who murdered 50 million of their own people. And the Washington Post applauds that because, they call 1 million baby deaths a year in the United States choice. That's what they call that. Choice. Hey, choice is good, especially when you're killing 1 million kids a year. That means more parking for everyone, everywhere you go. Isn't that great? Also because of Democrats, illegal immigrant student accused of groping girls in Fairfax County, Virginia high school. And he's an illegal alien. He's 19 years old. They've got him there as an 11th grader at the high school. He's 19, and he is grabbing in the most aggressive and nasty way that you can imagine these young girls in high school. And I think they go down to junior high school or something, but illegal alien, and the Democrats just keep letting him go and say, go back and sexually assault more teenage girls at school, because the Democrats love that sort of thing, don't they? Yeah, the illegal immigrant, and the Democrats refuse to cooperate. And ICE has, and he's an illegal alien. He's 19 years old. That makes him a full-grown adult. You can join the Marine Corps when you're 17 and go in when you're 18. You could be a veteran at 19, but he's a veteran groper of underage girls. And the Democrats say, well, we're going to protect him. We're not working with ICE because Trump or something mentally ill like that, because aren't they amazing? And in the meantime, the Fairfax County prosecutor, who is a George Soros guy, and that means he's a communist, and with him there will be more murder and more crime. Fairfax County prosecutor called to testify on sanctuary policies after Minter murder. This is the illegal alien that murdered the woman getting off a bus. They rode the bus together, and the illegal alien murdered the 41-year-old woman, if I remember correctly. And the Democrats applaud that because that means they're open-minded. They're open-minded, and they're open to murder. They're very receptive to murder. Fairfax County Commonwealth Attorney Steve Descano, and he's elected. He's a George Soros guy, came in and bought Steve Descano's job as the Commonwealth Attorney in Fairfax County. And since then, you got the groping the little girls with the illegal alien. You got the illegal alien murdering the 41-year-old woman. And the Democrats applaud the illegal aliens, and they want them to date their daughters. And it's amazing. It's like, Luigi Mangione is their hero. They want their daughters dating Luigi Mangione, not in spite of the fact that he assassinated a CEO in New York, but because of the fact that he assassinated a CEO in New York. The Democrat Party is very mentally ill. So I want to get to this. Steve Descano, communist, pro-criminal, pro-crime, and, how many jihadis and criminals and illegal aliens? These people, I got to tell you, and they got their this young woman, Minter, who was murdered, Stephanie Minter in Fairfax County by Abdul Jallah. Abdul Jallah. Minter's alleged killer is Abdul Jallah, an illegal immigrant with a lengthy criminal history. And the Democrats kept letting him go until he murdered a woman. And now they say, isn't that a shame? And then they go to lunch because they don't actually care about human life. And they'll get back to releasing him early as soon as they can. And he's an illegal alien. Isn't that great? But now Descano, he's being called to testify about the dangerous consequences of sanctuary policies. Yes, sir, because congressional hearing on Fairfax County, Virginia. That can't be good. And Steve Descano, the sheriff there, Stacy Kincaid, also a cross-dresser, I think. invited to testify at a hearing next month before the House Judiciary Subcommittee on Immigration Integrity, Security, and Enforcement. I'm gonna go out of. I was texting with a friend of mine who's a retired naval officer yesterday who lives out there and thereabouts anyway, and he said he bet $1 that Steve Descano just doesn't show up to the congressional hearing, and probably Stacey Kincaid, who I think might be a man-boy child or something. Will that person show up? Will they show up for the congressional hearing, for the testimony? Pretty good chance that the answer is no, because they're fascists and they're above the law. Oh, speaking of fascists that are above the law, this is amazing. You know, Cesar Chavez, not Hugo Chavez, another Democrat hero, but Cesar Chavez of the United Farm Workers, right? You'll never guess his 99th birthday is coming up. And the left, they were planning on celebrating a lot, but then something happened. What happened with the Cesar Chavez celebration? It's apparently being derailed now. I'll explain why. We're at 888-630-9625. And it's mailbag day. It's mailbag day, too. I have to study my mailbaggery, my mail baggage. Before we get to that, let's go to the telephones. Let's go to Dave, calling from Severna Park, Maryland. Dave, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, Chris. Thanks for having me again. Hey, to your point on why, or the question of why NATO won't step up and answer the call, you suggested that there are so many Muslims in Europe destroying Europe that I think the leadership there is terrified of what might happen within their own borders if they do.
Yep. Yeah. That's so they're living in fear of radical Islam, and that's why they're not standing up to Iran.
They are hostage by their foreign population.
Yeah, the hostage, I think, is the right word. Yeah, the Muslim horde doesn't have to invade on horseback with swords this time, as they have in the past in Spain and beyond. The Moors and all of that. Now they're just moving in and taking jobs and going on welfare and lazing around, threatening to murder everyone. Is that pretty much what we have here?
I think that's exactly what we have here. Yeah. And the leaderships, they are fraidy cats of what they've done.
Fraidy cats, exactly. Fraidy cats, I think, is the legal term that is in common usage. And yeah, that's right.
There's probably stronger terms, but we'll keep it clean.
Right. Yeah, we've got these FCC regs and all that stuff. But yeah, that's right. It's fear of murder and violence. You know how the Democrats love communists and childhood sex abusers, and it's pretty much their lane. Here is the Reuters news agency from yesterday at 7:27 p.m. around dinner time. The headline from Reuters is Cesar Chavez. You know, he's the grape. He's the grape boycott guy. He got to boycott grapes because Cesar Chavez said so, and Cesar Chavez, the United Farm Workers. He was always against illegal aliens because it cut the pay of legal aliens picking grapes and things like that when he wasn't boycotting them. But here's the headline. And the granddaughter of Cesar Chavez, I know, worked in the Obama administration. I actually met her, very nice woman, lefty. Worked in the Obama administration and then worked in the Biden administration, the granddaughter of Cesar Chavez. Here's the headline, got to be proud today. His 99th birthday coming up, founder of the United Farm Workers and the grape boycott and all this stuff. Sexual abuse allegations made against late U.S. labor icon Cesar Chavez. Turns out he died in 1993 at the age of 66. But if you look at pictures of him, he looked like he was 86. He didn't look like he was doing as well as, maybe he should have. If he was eating his grapes, he might have fared better. Sexual abuse allegations made against late U.S. labor icon Cesar Chavez, Democrat Party icon. Who gave, you say Obama gave him the Presidential Medal of Freedom? Oh, I apologize. Bill Clinton gave him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and then you say Obama made his birthday, or made a day, he picked a day, and said it's National Cesar Chavez Day. Apparently it's a holiday in some states, is that right? Some states it's a holiday, and here he is. Turns out he's just another Democrat. That's J-A-D, Jad, just another Democrat. Smid, severely mentally ill Democrat. Allegations of inappropriate sexual behavior and abuse of young women or girls. See, now here we go, Jeffrey Epstein, because the Democrats all think this is normal. This is all perfectly fine with them all the time. Bill Clinton, and the list is long. Jeffrey Epstein, Democrat fundraiser, political fundraiser, and so on. So allegations of inappropriate sexual behavior and abuse of young women or girls have emerged against iconic late labor organizer Cesar Chavez, and the union he co-founded will not take part in annual celebrations of him, according to a statement on Tuesday. The Cesar Chavez Foundation, which preserves memorials, including his California gravesite, and it's like Jim Morrison. You got to go there to get high and eat grapes or something like that. Said that the alleged inappropriate sexual behavior occurred while Chavez was president of the United Farm Workers Union, which he co-founded in 1962. The union said there were allegations, plural, multiple, that Chavez, quote, behaved in ways that are incompatible with our organization's values, end quote, while adding that it had no direct reports or first-hand knowledge of the claims. Well, that didn't stop you from canceling thousands of people over the last 10 years, so I guess you should apply the same standard to yourselves. Some of the reports are family issues. I'm sorry, what? The sexual abuse of underage girls as family members, because Democrats keep them away from the kids. Some of the reports are family issues and not our story to tell or our place to comment on. Far more troubling than the family allegations of sexual abuse of underage girls in the family. The union says, far more troubling are allegations involving abuse of young women or minors, allegations that very young women or girls may have been victimized are crushing, the union said in a statement. Cesar Chavez Day, March 31st, his birthday, was named a federal commemorative holiday by President Barack Obama in 2014. It's a federal commemorative holiday, thanks to Barack Hussein Obama, who's a communist who hates everyone. And it is a state holiday in several states, including California and Texas. The day has historically included marches. They love marching, don't they? Goose stepping around with their hobnailed boots, click, click, click. They include marches, service projects. They have service projects, educational programs. Sure, I can imagine what they're educating people to. The United Farm Workers said it would not participate in any events this year, and media reports said some cities were canceling or renaming activities. They should rename them, for Vladimir Lenin or maybe Che Guevara or something. These are dumb people, but they're totalitarian at their core. Their roots are totalitarian, and Barack Obama in Cuba, loving on the Castros, loving on Che Guevara, a dead racist mass murderer. They love mass murderers. They love Luigi Mangione because he killed. They applaud the murder, the assassination of Charlie Kirk. The Democrat Party is a violent loony bin. We should really create a large loony bin. Maybe Canada. Maybe we should take Canada and turn it into a loony bin and send Democrats there. The news comes as Americans' attitudes towards sexual abuse and assault have shifted since the Pound Me Too movement and extensive media coverage, and that's all Democrats, by the way. You notice they stopped the Pound Me Too movement because it was always a lynch mob intended to get Trump and Republicans and everybody. And then they got so many Democrats, all the women coming forward, and every Democrat groped me, when I was 9. And the Democrats, they're fine with that. But news comes, attitudes shifted because the Pound Me Too movement and extensive media coverage of late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, a lifelong Democrat Party fundraiser and pal and friend, Chavez, gained international prominence with boycotts and fasts, the grapes, for higher wages and better working conditions for migrant workers who picked grapes and performed other agricultural labor. He died in 1993 at the age of 66. And again, he wasn't looking his best. I've got to say, those grapes were not serving him well. He married Helen Fabella in 1948, and they had 8 children between 1949 and 1958, according to California State biography. And Fabella, the wife, died in 2016, outlived him. In 1994, Chavez was awarded a Presidential Medal of Freedom, thanks to Bill Clinton, and they probably went out dating together. Went to gentlemen's clubs in Washington where they ran into Hunter Biden and Marion Barry, because that's where you find Democrats. And Chavez was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, America's highest civilian honor. The foundation said it would work with the union. Yeah, that ought to do it, the foundation and the union, to create confidential channels for those who may have been harmed by Chavez to share their experiences and seek support. Isn't that wonderful? That's a great story, because the Democrats, they have heroes, and their heroes, turns out, are essentially primarily, typically, generally child rapists. And the Democrats, they're okay with that.
We have no finer role model than Cesar Chavez.
We have no finer role model than Cesar Chavez. Well, and now better than ever. And, of course, what's the name of the lady that worked for Joe Biden on Capitol Hill in the Senate office, and she had to flee the country because when she reported that Joe Biden had sexually assaulted her, pinned her against a wall, and assaulted her with his fingers, and Tara Reid, and she had to leave the country. She was so afraid when Biden was president. And the news media is not fun. You know where she moved? Because she's a Democrat. To Russia, to Putin's Russia, to feel safer with Putin than she felt with President Joseph Robinette Biden. Aren't they amazing?
Chavez has inspired millions, including me. I was proud to place the bust of his likeness in my office. So if you walk in my office, you can't forget what he taught us.
And now this explains why so many women walked into the Oval Office and turned around and ran out screaming. Now, also in the Oval Office, Joe Biden had a bust of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King, MLK. Had that, and he had Bobby Kennedy. In there, too. And he had a portrait on the wall of Abraham Lincoln. I'm not making this up. 3 people shot in the head. 3 people shot in the head by Democrats. And he had them all in their thing. Also, a crazy story since this came up about Hugo Chavez, reminding me, and one of my brothers this morning going back and forth about this. I'm an MLK scholar, is theconversation.com. Martin Luther King. I'm an MLK scholar, and I'll never be able to view King in the same light again. It turns out that the FBI discovered that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King had sexually assaulted a significant number of women, including in gang rapes. And the FBI had all the scoop on this. Dave Garrow, the Pulitzer Prize-winning biographer of Martin Luther King Jr., has unearthed information that may forever change King's legacy. in his 8,000-word article published in the British periodical Standpoint magazine, May 30th of 2019. Dave Garrow details the contents of FBI memos he discovered. He was researching for his book on Martin Luther King. Discovered after spending weeks sifting through more than 54,000 documents. Well, that sounds like a lot, doesn't it? But the Epstein documents, they released like 4 million documents or something. 54,000 documents located on the National Archives website, initially sealed by the court until 2027. Why would they do that? The documents ended up being made available in recent months through the President John F. Kennedy Assassination Records Collection Act of 1992. The most damning memos describe King witnessing a rape in a hotel room. Instead of stopping it, handwritten notes in the file say he encouraged the attacker to continue. King was once thought of as a saint beyond reproach. After his death, it eventually emerged that he was a womanizer. I think I've told the story that when I was a kid, I was 16 years old, and I was at the Democratic Convention in New York City working for CBS News as a runner, 16 years old. And at the Democratic Convention, Madison Square Garden, Jimmy Carter was nominated and eventually won, and that was tragic. But there was a woman who was working for CBS News at the time, and I was told, well, she was a senior CBS News employee, and I was told that the book on her, she was famous because she had sex with Martin Luther King. And I was 16 years old, 1976, which, is 1968, only 8 years after Martin Luther King was killed. And I was introduced to this lady, and as we walked away, somebody grabbed me and said, oh, you know what she's famous for? I said, no, what's she famous for? While she was working for CBS News covering the civil rights movement, she had sex with Martin Luther King. I'm like, and that's her badge of honor that she wears. Isn't that amazing? And so Dave said, if these FBI memos are accurate, they're FBI memos, it's J. Edgar Hoover and all that, and I have good reason to believe that they are, we now all have to ask the unthinkable. Was King an abuser? And what might this mean for his legacy? Well, you just whitewash it. The Democrats just whitewash it and clean it out. They cleanse it. The FBI files contain some other notable information. Garrow writes that Martin Luther King may have fathered a daughter with Dolores Evans, a girlfriend of his who's still alive and living in Los Angeles. The memo also details the closeness of the relationship with Dorothy Cotton, a longtime associate of Martin Luther King's in Atlanta and director of his organization, Citizen Education Program. They shared a little education, apparently. It appears that the two were romantically involved. Many of these transcripts were based on audio tapes that are still under seal by the court. Dave Garrow, the author researching Martin Luther King, had taken his findings to other outlets, but each decided against publishing them. The Guardian published them out of the United Kingdom. But the New York Times, the Washington Post, Time Magazine, they said, well, we're not going to publish that. Are you kidding me? And that's what you do. You just never speak of it. You never publish it. You cover it up. That's what the news media does because they're Democrats. It'd be racist to tell the truth, you see. By the way, Martin Luther King was assassinated by a Democrat who was a Democrat presidential campaign volunteer. All right? James Earl Ray, and he worked for George Wallace, the Democrat governor, who is a racist. But they're all Democrats. Make no mistake. The Democrats like to say, oh, yeah, but it was George Wallace. Yeah, the Democrat governor, George Wallace, who is running for president as Democrat Governor George Wallace. I gotta, is it everything is a lie? Everything is a lie? Or just everything Democrats tell you? King's sexual exploits long known. And it turns out they're all over the place. And, and now we have Cesar Chavez, and we got to go back to Joe Biden and his employee on Capitol Hill. But then there's Bill Clinton and the intern. I knew her, Monica Lewinsky. Wasn't her fault. Looks like the Democrat Party's got a lot of issues. And now I've got A school principal in Oregon, a story I want to share with you. He's a Democrat, too. That's coming up. I should mention also, because an Admiral friend is texting me, that the Obama administration, Obama's Secretary of the Navy, Ray Mabus, named a ship for Cesar Chavez, the USNS, U.S. naval ship Cesar Chavez. It's a Lewis and Clark class dry cargo ship. And, yeah, they named a ship for Cesar Chavez, and they filled it with seamen. That's the thing about that. Let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Barry calling from Frederick, Maryland. Barry, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Chris, I just wanted to alert you and all the listeners across the fruited plain to a great mini-series that I watched. It's called the MLK Project, and there are many shocking revelations, the sexual ones that you just mentioned, but perhaps the most shocking of all is that Martin Luther King was not a Christian, and I don't say that, haphazardly. He, in this miniseries, in his own words, in his own writings, Martin Luther King said he did not believe in the virgin birth of Jesus. He did not believe in the deity of Jesus. He did not believe Jesus ever performed any miracles, and he did not believe in the resurrection of Jesus Christ. There are many other revelations about him being a straight-up communist, not a socialist,
right?
A committed Marxist communist. But I think if 10 or 20 million people saw this miniseries, we would all probably get together and remove that abomination of a statue that's on the mall to this charlatan, fraud, atheist, woman abuser.
It's called the MLK Project. That's what it's called.
Yes, and it's made by an African American man named Chad Jackson.
What channel did you see it on?
It's online. You have to go to a website.
I see. Okay. Martin Luther King Jr. often interpreted the resurrection metaphorically rather than literally. And it wasn't a body event to align with liberal theology views. And yes.